Hi, Ian. John Horwath. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Hi, John. Nice to meet you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, as you can tell from the shirt, if you're here at the SAFE Summit, I am a SAFE Fellow. I was the first SAFE Fellow in Europe, one of the first batch outside SAI. Yeah. And I've been working in this industry for 30 years. Something used to work with Dean back at Rational, so I've known Dean for a long, long time. And I've been involved in lots and lots of agile transformations. I like to help people be successful. That's my raison d'etre.
How did you get started in the whole, what was your first experience with Agile and an Agile kind of environment?
So, depending on how you define Agile, I used to work for Rational, so I did the Rational Unified Process. So I've been doing iterative development and a lot of Agile stuff before the branding happened, right? And things like that. So people have been working with small teams, iterative ways of working, lightweight documentation for many years before the manifesto was written. Right. That's harnessed a huge amount of energy and passion in the community, and helped lots of companies to improve. And if you're continuously learning, you need to make sure you don't sign up to any particular fundamentalist religion. So I like to work with people like Dean, and doing some work with Jeff Sutherland. You need to have a broad base of understanding and avoid, be practical. I like to think it's practical, pragmatic, working with people to help them improve and get the best results, and that's always a good thing.
Is that the reason why Scaled Agile framework is a framework? Because it's the practical implementation is going to use the framework and the principles to really make a practical implementation. Right?
Humans like to sign up to faith-based stuff, and they like to highlight the differences. I prefer to highlight the similarities. There's more in common between all the Agile frameworks than there are differences, and there's things to learn from them all. I like the Scaled Agile framework because it's great for mobilizing large groups of people, particularly in traditional style organizations. If you try and do bottom up, just one team at a time, I've dealt with 2,000 people. I worked at Ericsson, there were 72 Agile teams across the world, many continents, many nationalities. And we rolled out, and this is actually about the time SAFE was taking off, but we had program increments, we had teams of teams, we had release trains, and we rolled out and we stood that up in 3 months across the world. And what's great about that, when you go with teams of teams, you can get large numbers of people more agile than they were before. Right? So SAFE has its sweet spot. Incredibly well marketed. The Dean's knows about marketing and selling, and he was the first of the strongly branded frameworks. I was at Agile 2013 when it became the sole topic of conversation, and it wasn't long after that you saw all the others doing logos and sticking names on theirs. But it was designed to appeal to the early and late majority, if you know the Jeffrey Moore Costing chasm. Everyone else is chasing the innovators and the early adopters, which is good to get new ideas, but they don't stick with anything. Innovators move on. They'll be on to the next thing. Early adopters move on. Because if you want to achieve the benefits of any kind of Agile at scale, you've got to persevere with it. So SAFE has been absolutely brilliant for the business. It does address the problem of large numbers of people who aren't Agile want to become Agile. Right. That's one of the scaling problems. The other scaling problem is I have a small Agile company and I want to grow. Right? So I need to start having a way of working on it. Transparency is, things aren't transparent if you don't understand the language they're written in. So organisations need, as Jeff Sutherland would say, a minimum viable bureaucracy across the stack.
Right.
Now he doesn't tell you what you should have in your backlogs, but he does say that you should define a set. So things like Scrum at Scale and SAFE in fact, highly compatible. They're not even in opposition to each other. So if you do have a small Agile, your goal is to preserve your culture. And to be completely honest, you just ask the people in the Agile teams which framework they'd like to use. Because your struggle then is to not kill your culture as you bring more people in. And even small Agile companies, they start growing, suddenly they start bringing people in with the word manager in their job title, Agile on their CV, they've never done it, and then they go back to the old way. Right? We need to use the psychology, an invitation type Agile is great, but I've got no problem with top-down stuff. Right? Microsoft recently did a huge transformation to the cloud. I don't know about you, I thought they were dead. I thought, that's it.
In my classes, when I teach, I talk often about, what saved Microsoft, because I believe they were dead also. Because
I mean, they went to the cloud, and the main thing was that the CEO at the top said, this is what we're doing. Everyone's doing it. He gave the vision, he gave the inspiration, he moved the levers in the organizations to reward the behavior he wanted instead of selling the old stuff. And they've surfed the next wave, which, if you ever saw Geoffrey Moore's talk here last year on Zone to Win, that's phenomenal. That would never have happened if he'd waited for that to come from the bottom. The big problem is always the stuff in the middle. That's where it tends to go wrong.
So you've been Agile more from a cultural standpoint and that for a very long time. So when you look back over your career, like I look back over my career, and there's because I'm way older than you are, I look back on my career and there's
I reckon I'm older than you.
I don't know.
Probably not what we should talk about in the interview.
But I look back and I say, wow, I did a digital transformation at LA Gear when LA Gear was around, and I had a great team. What are some of those highlights in your past, like the past 20 years or the past 25, 30 years that say, wow, this is what I'm really proud of?
It all comes down to the success, as a coach, from a coaching standpoint, the success of the people and the teams that you've been coaching. So over the years, I did a lot of work with KPN in Holland a long time ago. That was a huge transformation. That made a big difference. I've just done so many now. I mean, recently I've been working, I did the Gibraltar Financial Services Commission, who are the regulator in Gibraltar. Only 4 people who develop software, no product development. They went Agile top to bottom. So working with their senior management team and their executive, getting them doing Scrum and daily stand-ups and dealing with impediments straight away, and coaching the teams who weren't software teams in how to be Agile. That was a highlight. We talk a lot about the Shu-Ha-Ri for Agile. I think if you're at the Re stage, you can teach Agile without all the nonsense words, all the buzzwords. Because when you boil it down to it, it's actually about small, high-performing teams with a mission, working from a backlog, getting stuff done, and all that kind of stuff. But few coaches can't actually explain these things from first principles. And you even see some of that in the way that the frameworks and processes are set up. Right? I remember when we used to have Dilbert back in the day, and when I used to teach requirements, I had a bit of software. It was the Dilbert Jargonator, and you had little characters. And there was the pointy-haired manager, and you push the button, and it came out in management speak. I would like to have the Agile methodologist button there, where you feed the words in, push a button, and it comes out in even worse management speak. Combination of Japan and buzzword bingo, isn't it? So I think for the Agile community to go forward and take over other areas, you've got to remember the first line of the manifesto. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools. And when you get into business, they're not waterfall. Waterfall's an IT invention. Right? They don't build their products and things waterfall. When you go to hardware, yes, you need to codify designs and specifications before you do manufacturing, but they don't, so Heath Robinson things on desks and, patch boards and stuff. So you can get all of these people working in an agile, iterative way, and you can build them up into into teams of teams. You can run all the different aspects.
So the terminology thing is one of your hot buttons. What are a couple more in the global Agile community that you'd say, if I had my magic wand, I could change?
I'd like the Agile community to be more agile. And I'd like them to remember the first line of the manifesto. Everyone wants to rewrite the manifesto, right? Everybody does. But individuals and interactions over stereotypes, processes and tools. A couple of years ago I was here at the summit, and within an hour people had made what I found quite offensive remarks about the suits, creating an outgroup, creating an enemy thing, right? Those old, that's not valuing them. They are knowledgeable people. The whole thing about knowledge workers. So developers are knowledge workers. They're the best people who know how to do that. Managers are idiots and should all be taken out and shot. Right? Oh no, surely they're knowledge workers too. So they know best how to do this kind of stuff. So there's a level of arrogance that's going to become hubris in the self-appointed expertise of some of the Agile community. The biggest threat to most Agile transformations is the Agile coaches. Right. I was talking to Dean last year. The biggest threat to the success of SAFe is bad SPCs.
Right.
Right. So, so it's that kind of thing. It's about getting better and getting better results and helping people realise their potential. And these framework wars just annoy the hell out of me. Okay. I've seen companies. One company, they've been very successful with SAFe, and a large consultancy company that shall not be named came in and said, you shouldn't be doing SAFe, you should be doing the Spotify method. Spotify method, the method that does not exist, the method that Henrik would say, you can't do it, it doesn't exist. Right. If you want a framework, use one of the frameworks. Don't use some blog posts from a few years ago. And they went in, and that was their advice to this company, that rather than look at what was working well and how to improve it and how to inspect and adapt, rip out one framework, put in another one. It's crazy. So I understand some people are fed up with the Agile coaching industry. It's just replaced the old blue suits of IBM with the, the t-shirts and jeans of the Agile coach. And I'd like empiricism. And it worries me that so much of so-called empirical processes, no one's measuring anything. They're not.
That's how are you measuring your coach's performance, right? Well, so interestingly, I've been a leader and a servant leader for many years, most of my career actually. Now there's a name for it, right? But I was a good leader, and part of that was being a coach, right? So my flow into coming to SBC was just another tool in the toolkit. So, but I see like you, I see SBCs that are really good at implementing the process of doing the SAFe essentials. So what do you think it's going to take some of us and SBCs to the next level to be a truly servant leader coach that really is what your vision of a coach would be?
There's different levers you can pull to try and affect change. And there's different definitions of coaching and mentoring. So for me, a coach, certainly when I say an Agile coach, that's someone, they're dispensable, right? They're there to fill a gap in the expertise, but their job is to leave behind a learning organisation, creating people. Everyone in the organisation should be a coach. We see like mentoring and reverse mentoring going on. I mean, older, more senior people learning from new people, millennials coming in. So what you're striving for is that kind of learning organisation. Everyone is a coach. People own their own way of working, all of the great Agile principles. And that requires a lot of coaches to sort of get down off their pedestal. I learn from the people I coach. I learn more from them than they learn from me in many cases, and I give them all the credit. Right? They're successful. I had nothing to do with it.
So I'm working with some coaches that are very much, well, we're the purest safe implementation that I've ever seen. To me, that's an anti-pattern against the manifestos and really safe in general. So do you see that often where people grab onto safe saying this is a framework and we're the purest and we do everything right?
You see people taking different approaches.
Right.
My approach is when you start, do it by the book, because that's a predictable way of working. There you've got the safety wheels on, right? And then you inspect and adapt, but you have to do that in a non-populist way. Some of the things that you need to do are hard, and they're going to be tough and they're going to be difficult. So PI planning is a wonderful thing.
It is.
Right? Truly wonderful, amazing event. It's 2 days for a reason. It's mainly backlog refinement. And yet you see people trying to go, well, if we did all the stories before we went in, we could get it down to 1 day. And, oh, that confidence vote, people don't like doing that, we'll take that out. And they start taking the checks and balances and turning it, people just go back to the dark side so easily. I go into PI planning, I'm a big fan of not overly preparing, because then people will rise up. Great fan of self-organisation. The day before PI planning, why don't you let the people choose what teams they're going to be in? Don't try and do it in PI planning because there's not physically enough time. And get better at the tough bits. So the role of the coach is to keep people, in a way, with safe on the straight and narrow, so that they are making their improvements on a predictable basis. If you don't have a stable, predictable system, when you do your experiments, you don't know if your change had anything to do with it. So, by the book is a great way to start, but if you're not continually learning and going beyond the book as you go forward, then you're not really being agile. Right? And as people go forward, they can then have lovely long arguments about whether or not they're still doing safe anymore. I do think if you claim to do something, you should be following the rules. Right? But it's all about the results and numbers. Empiricism. There is no one ring to rule them all. There is no one true way of doing stuff, and people will try things. You need a nice data-driven basis to take these things forward.
So a year ago, I was working at a smaller company, and we implemented SAFE, and we did it not only for development, but we also did. The majority of the company was transformed. We extended to portfolio and extended not just development, but many things to the portfolio level. And so at that time, the portfolio level wasn't where it's at, not even where it's at close today, but 4.6 really helped drive the portfolio level further. And so, what are you excited about the 5.0? I mean, I'm thrilled about it, but I'm really curious to see what your opinion of a 5.0 is. I just want to go bump, 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 bump.
There's a lot of good stuff coming in there.
Yeah.
But we have to be very careful. My theory about processes, the bigger or methods or frameworks, whatever rule you like to do, the bigger they are, the shorter their half-life. Right? And people are bringing their favourite things in, and many of them are not essential. So lean portfolio management, along the lines of the principles of SAFE, actually is incredibly straightforward and simple, and has been all the time. So it's good to see more stuff coming in, but the problem I see with what's happening, my big fear, is the people are going into large organisations. Most portfolio managers in large organisations are not what I would consider to be lean portfolio managers.
That's very true.
My question is, can you cancel the things in your portfolio? So if you can't stop them, you're not really a lean portfolio manager. We need to get to the people. It's about making investment decisions and doing them quickly. It's about having much more influence over the business results by pivoting and doing all that kind of stuff. So it's good to see more stuff coming in, but I'm concerned that there's a lot of people going and helping people justify their jobs by teaching them how to do what they're doing with a new vocabulary. Right? We keep the same behaviours, we just use the new buzzwords. So the lean portfolio manager should be at an executive level. It's about investment, and then it's actually quite easy. And you will find when you meet those people, they know about most of this stuff, right? Lots of people have been doing lean portfolio management to their best they can, given the speed of delivery for many years. And what the problem there is the speed of delivery. They make a decision, it takes 3 months before anything happens. Well, what you want is decision to action to get that time right down. And you want to be able to play around with the levers in your organisation. So, but it's good to see, more about business agility and things like that. But there's not a lot of really huge fundamental changes, certainly to the way we've been teaching it over the years. So that's good. It's not going away from what we like.
So I need some advice from you. So I'm at a very large organization right now, coaching, and they're actually extending to portfolio now. And so trained a number of the executives and leaders they've attended the LPM class, passed the LPM class, and so now they're definitely talking all the right things. But from a gotcha standpoint, what do you know to help coach them through that to say, here's some areas where you don't want to.
When you're dealing with senior people. You need a different coaching style than when you're dealing with teams. So lots of Agile coaches are all about the empowerment and the, yay, go team, woo, yay. Right? That doesn't work with executives because they've got all the power. They need concrete recommendations, they need guidance, they need stuff talking their language, they need people to respect their opinions and risks, not tell them they can't do something. It's got to empower them as well. And you've got to get them onto cadence. The best thing you can do is to get that group of people, whatever kind of executive it is here, get them using Scrum and running as a Scrum team. Get them doing their work, their actions, their stuff, get them doing daily stand-ups about what they're doing, not about, you'll have scaled daily stand-ups for stuff going on, and get them. You need to make this relevant to them. This is going to help them run their business. You're going to have better information, fast decision, taking action, and get them involved. If you can do that, then that's when you get the real excitement. What most people do is push them away. Right? Come to one meeting. Well, no, what they're doing the rest of it, they've got to be agile all the time. So those things, that kind of stuff, get that engagement with them. And be respectful of them. Right? And now more and more people, they know that this is good for their career. They know this is happening in company. So you've got to be able to engage with them and talk their language and not come off as a my way or the highway, a dictatorial thing.
So where do you see yourself going in the next couple of years? What do you see your focus being, and what excites you about working on things in the next couple of years?
I just like helping people, really. That's how I get. If you're going to be a coach, you've got to understand what it is and where you're going and what you do. So I have two strands. I do some kind of methodology stuff. Ivar Jacobson International, I've been working with Ivar on trying to free the practices. Right? A framework should be something you plug things into. Right? And there's many practices, and there'll be new practices. So establishing the rules of the game in an organisation and being able to plug and play, that could be incredibly powerful. Now, there's a lot of resistance because people want to own they'd rather take someone's practice and rewrite it than use source material. So we're trying to find a way to plug them. So that, on that kind of thing, and providing practical guidance to help people do stuff. So recently there was a series of blogs on the idea about how to write better PI objectives. And things like that. Did the work on feature slicing, which got into the Scaled Agile framework. My talk was about how to use capabilities, because there's no, they're there and everyone's doing them wrong. So I like to contribute in those ways, but the energy always comes from solving a real problem with a real customer. So for me, I like coaching because the customers provide the goals. Right, because I don't have any.
So we're almost out of time.
You know,
What would be like? I'm love being an SBC. It's been a major transformation in my life. What kind of advice? One minute about what you would recommend to people like me who have found a passion and trying to master their skill. What main focus or what's a piece of advice you like to give us?
And I think that the main thing, it's the same. It's coming across all things with safe version. You have to be customer centric. If you're an SPC, if you're a coach, it's not about you. It's about the people you're coaching. Right? Yeah. You don't do it because you want to win awards. You do it because they want to win awards. I did some work at a project program in Deutsche Bank. They did very well with safe. They won 5 industry awards over 2 years, and they all got pay rises, and they've all got promotions, and they've all moved on now, which leaves the original project possibly. No. But that's how I get that. For me, that's what it's about: the success of the people that you're helping, and bringing your skills, your knowledge, to help them and learn from them as you go along. That's for me is what the coaching side's about. A lot depends on what it is that makes you happy, and how do you go on. So I'm kind of an accidental safe fellow, which is always a source of great pride, but I'm not the world's greatest networker and all that kind of stuff. It's an acknowledgement of work I've done with customers and contributions I've made, which is great.
Unbelievable.
So, but if you love if you enjoy coaching and working with people, that's great. My colleague, my mucker, Mr. Tucker, who's recently become a safe fellow himself, he loves training. He's a training machine.
He trained me.
And
he trained me in my SBC.
He's great at it.
Right.
I can't do what he does because I get bored and then I get silly. Whereas he can do it relentlessly, and he loves doing the training. He loves meeting all the people, and that's great. So finding the aspects of this that you love, and just get really good at it. But it's the reflection back that it's not about, if you're a coach, it's not about you, it's about the people you're coaching. And some coaches seem to forget that.
They do.
All right.
But I can't. It was quite an honor to get to meet you. This was a great half an hour of my life. Thank you so much.